So we're finally here with the second Avengers movie that follows up the sensation and the final product of the Phase 2 movies. So let's see if they managed to stick the landing or if they flopped it up. I mean, it's honestly impossible for this one to live up to the first movie, but let's just humor it, shall we? Plot. So the Avengers, after everything that's happened in their various solo films, have finally managed to track down Loki's staff in a Hydra stronghold and are on the assault. In the middle of the assault, Tony is attacked by the Scarlet Witch, who shows him a vision of the future where the Avengers are destroyed. After retrieving the staff, as well as taking out the center piece of it, Tony and Bruce discover a sort of AI algorithm within the staff and use it to complete Tony's Ultron project, using it to create an AI that becomes the head part of the Ultron project to create robots to help keep the world in safe order. However, the new Ultron AI runs amok, viewing humanity and the Avengers as a whole as evils that have to be exterminated. With the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver at his side, the Avengers have to stop this self-created evil and stop it from taking over the world and bringing about an extinction level event. So let's get the great big giant elephant that can't be shrunken no matter how hard you try to shrink it, Hank Pym, out of the room. Ultron. Like everyone and their mothers have told you already, in the comics, Ultron was created by Hank Pym in an effort to protect his space in the Avengers team by having him fight against an evil robot, and him being the only one to stop it. It didn't work and led to his most infamous moment where he slaps his wife Janet Van Dyne in the face. It's something that happened. Now, in the movie, Tony creates him accidentally and then things spiral out of control from there. As for the motive, Ultron is a character that, while his motives outside of screw with the Avengers, are pretty much none. Like, outside of his whole possible Oedipus issues with Janet Van Dyne and Hank Pym, as well as his whole screw with the Avengers thing, he kind of has no other plot motivations. I mean, yeah, there was this whole take over the world thing in the actual Age of Ultron comics, but again, that didn't really lead to much of anything. Outside of a whole time travel plot, Wolverine killed Hank Pym in the past, led to an even worse future. It was a weird comic, but an oddly good one to me. Anyway, yeah, it can honestly be argued that Ultron in the comics is actually going forward with his full programming, because, as stated earlier, he was designed to, and I quote, screw with the Avengers. And his whole sole motivation, pretty much the only thing he does nowadays, is screw with the Avengers. So, he kind of is actually a fully functioning robot. I just has higher reasoning. Does that mean Hank Pym did a better job than he wanted to, or did he screw up royally? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, they're pretty much similar when it comes to their overall character and how they're just hoping to create their own perfect bodies, as well as the whole army of Ultron bots kind of thing. But overall, it's a change that had to be done for the cinematic universe, especially concerning what to do with Ant-Man later in the movies. As for Quicksilver Scarlet Witch, like everyone, I'm sad that the whole Fox Marvel thing won't let them be Magneto's kids, but aside from that, they work pretty well, starting out as villains, like in the comics, for their own personal reasons, like in the comics, before realizing that their actions have spiraling consequences and deciding to help people. I'd say it again, like in the comics. And yes, their appearance here is what leads to the whole Quicksilver and Days of Future Past thing, so, there's that. Uh, Vision is also pretty much on point. He's a character that is honestly dependent on a writer. I do love his Soul series that came out a minute ago, but outside of that, he really doesn't do that much in terms of comics. And as for the Avengers themselves, I do like the fact that War Machine and Falcon aren't with the original group as of yet in this movie, but they're still there. I mean, like, they show up every now and then, they help out towards the end. But again, it also focuses on the main group before getting into new members of the group. I mean, you kind of have to balance this, especially because you have three whole new Avengers joining the team before the end of this movie, and the villain, who ultimately suffers the same fate as every Marvel villain does, at least every Marvel movie villain. overall, this isn't as good as the first movie, but as I said earlier, that was kind of impossible to pull off twice. But this is still good in its own right. So yeah, a good movie, but not something great. And yes, Ultron is somewhat memorable. He still falls in the same trap as pretty much every other MCU villain, and being kind of forgettable in the grand scheme of things. Hopefully they can avoid that with Thanos later. We'll see.